Hey guys, this past weekend we had our Peoria campus pastor give a sermon, and he played in the NFL and he's got these connections with people. We were so fortunate to have him. You saw part of it. He did an interview with Coach Tony Dungy, but the interview was actually way longer than he was able to show. So, because we love you and because you go to groups, you're going to get a behind-the-scenes view of a bit more of the interview that'll put even more perspective on what he talked about this weekend. Watch this interview.
We're talking about teamwork a lot, and I know that's a passion of yours. You just released a book, The Soul of a Team, which is fantastic, by the way. But I don't know of anybody in my life that has had more experience with teams of all different shapes and sizes, from being on the early Steelers teams as a player to coming back as a coach and being with I think you coached with the Steelers for a decade or so, and then moving around and being with all these different organizations, and finally having your chance to go start a kind of a rebuild in Tampa and with Indy. Let's spend a few moments just talking about your idea of team, what you've learned over the years of team. I know Coach Knoll was a big impact.
Huge. And I learned from him again in that very first meeting. He said, everybody's job is important, but nobody's indispensable. Mm-hmm. And that became the theme for me. And my job the first year was to make sure that the projector was ready to go and the film was loaded up and the guys had tape to study, and then I had to practice hard giving the offense the look of the other team's defense. Mm-hmm. That was my job. I wasn't going to play much. I was going to play on special teams. I was going to be a backup. But in practice, I had to be that free safety that did exactly what I was supposed to do so Terry Bradshaw would know what was going to happen in the game. Mm-hmm. Sounds like a little unimportant job, but Coach Knoll made me feel like that was the most important job on the team. Mm-hmm. And I remembered that. That's what a team was. Whatever it takes, somebody's got to deliver that. And we had guys that were so unselfish, Hall of Fame, with 10 Hall of Famers on that team, but very, very unselfish. They would practice hard, work hard, make sure they didn't want to let their teammates down. And it was just a strong, strong message to me about this is how you win. You win with togetherness, not with talent. It's great to have talent, but togetherness is what's going to win.
So you start shaping your.
Well, I didn't even know it at the time. My thought process got shaped by that. I didn't know I was going to be a coach, but I looked. Hey, I know what's important. I know what we have to do to win. I know what my little job is, and now 5 years later, I'm a coach. I've got to instill that in my guys.
So you talk about selflessness. You talk about ownership and unity and having a larger purpose. That's one of those big things in your book. But one thing I've always admired about you is you were never wavering. You're always you. And you took a lot of criticism for that several years prior, especially before winning
When
the
you
Super
don't
Bowl.
win.
Can your personality
Yeah,
win a Super
yeah.
Bowl?
Well,
How did you?
Even getting a job, I'm interviewing. I'm probably now in the mid-90s, kind of a hot name as one of the assistant coaches. Keep your eye on this guy. Boy, he's been to Pittsburgh. He's been to Kansas City. We had #1 defense in the league in Minnesota. I was with the Vikings. So people are saying he's going to get a job. So I started to get these interviews. And I remember one owner asked me, he said, I like a lot about you, but the way you're talking to me now, and you say you don't raise your voice a lot, you don't use profanity, how are you going to get through to guys? And I said, well, I've gotten through to guys my whole life by showing them that I care, that developing a relationship with them, showing them I really love them. I feel I'll get that back, and we'll have this where we don't want to let each other down. Mm-hmm. And we'll have that sense of responsibility that way. He said, that won't work in the NFL. And he didn't hire me. Wow. And I went through a lot of that, and then people started telling me, hey, you're coming in second on all these jobs. Maybe you're going to have to change your personality. Maybe you can't be as close to the players. Maybe you've got to show a little edge. And I just remember my dad saying, be who you are, and that'll be good enough. And so I just vowed I'm not going to change. I ended up getting the Tampa job. We had 13 straight losing seasons before I got here, and we started winning. Now we're in the playoffs, and people say, oh, this is good, this calm voice, but now we don't win. We don't win. We get knocked out in the playoffs. We get knocked out again. Well, that's not the guy. He doesn't have that edge, and I ended up getting fired. So do you stay with your beliefs?
Yeah.
Do you say, no, this is who I am. I'm going to represent Christ? And
how hard was that? How hard was that for you to
By that time, it wasn't hard. Okay. If it had happened to me earlier in life, it might have been tougher. But by that time, I was so sold out to being who I needed to be for Christ, and I was representing Him first. And I said, if we never get to the Super Bowl, that's just God's will. But I'm not going to compromise. And fortunately, after I got fired, Jim Irsay called me, the owner of the Colts, and he said, that's what I'm looking for. This is what I want in my franchise. And we hit it off and had a nice 7 years there.
And you had some great teams there. One of the things that has shaped my life is back in 2005 in December. I was just reading my journal from there just a few days ago, and from that time. And I remember walking to the facility, and we had a team meeting called, and you weren't there, and didn't know what was going on. And Mr. Polian and Mr. Ursay were at the front, and they let us know that you lost your son James. And so, just to talk to me about just the unthinkable loss that you've had to go through since then, and I know that doesn't go away.
Yeah, it was a tough one, and we always talked in our meetings about adversity and how you're going to deal with it, and we're talking our Bible studies about keeping God first, and the Lord's with you no matter what. And those are all things that, as a coach and as a Christian, we preach. But then when it happens, you've got to say either I believe that, I buy into it, and I'm going forward, or it was just lip service. So we've got this great team. We're rolling. Everyone says this is a Super Bowl team. Can't think any adversity is going to hit. And then all of a sudden, I get a call at 2 o'clock in the morning from the Tampa Police Department, and we think your son has passed away. And you say, wow, I didn't expect this. And find out it's true. And of course, you have all the grief and all the questions and why. But now comes, okay, how do I deal with this? How do I handle it? And am I still going to be able to put the Lord on display and say that even in the valley, God's still God? And that's the way my family approached it. And it was one of those tough things you never get over. But two things that were really significant that came out of that for me, Travis, at the funeral, and a lot of you guys came down to it. One of my high school buddies came to me and he said, hey, let me ask you a question. With what you know about heaven, if you could bring your son James back right now, if God lets you do that, would you do it? And I had to stop and think. And I said, no. I said, that'd be selfish. I'd want to do it. But knowing he's in heaven, no, I wouldn't bring him back. And that changed my whole outlook right around. Hey, yeah, we're suffering. We're feeling bad. My son's doing great. So that helped me right there. And then someone sent me a scripture. Paul in 2 Corinthians talks about being comforted so you can comfort others. Mm-hmm. And he lets us go through things so we'll know in their deepest, darkest moments, we're getting comfort from the Lord. We're going to be able to comfort someone else. And almost a year later, we ended up winning Super Bowl 41. And the headlines on the paper, we're flying back on Monday to have a parade after the game. The headlines in the paper when we land, Colts win Super Bowl. And right below that is a picture of a family who lost 2 boys in a train-car collision. And the dad ended up calling me a couple days later. I had 3rd grade class. Travis Finley was his name. He said, Travis's friends, they don't know how to process this. Would you come to our school? And you know how public school is. I said, hey, I'll come, but if I'm going to talk to these kids, I'm going to talk about the Lord, I'm going to talk about heaven, I'm going to talk about Christ. And they said, we don't care. We just need somebody to help these kids. So I got to go and talk in that school and befriend this dad who lost the night of the Super Bowl, loses his 2 boys in a train accident. But I wouldn't have been able to do that without what we went through with James.
the things that I think our society can relate to. Most people can't relate winning a Super Bowl or going, coaching the NFL or playing in the NFL. But I think our society can relate to having earthly goals that you're shooting for, and potentially achieving those goals and it not really fulfilling you. I look at you as somebody who's achieved some pretty high earthly goals, right? You've won a Super Bowl and been a part of some great things, but it's never really defined you. It's never been your identity. What advice do you give to people to say, like, man, keep striving? That doesn't mean you don't strive for earthly goals, but how do you not let your identity get wrapped up in that?
That is the key. Goals is great. We want to be driven. I was always looking for players who were driven, who had goals. But you have to put it in perspective, and you have to realize that earthly goals are never going to satisfy you. There's always going to be more that you want. All I want to do is make it to college. Oh, I'm playing. If I can just make it on an NFL team, that'll be great. No, if I can just get this next contract, if we just win a Super Bowl. And you get there, and there's always going to be more. Yeah. I'll never forget the chapel service we had when I was a player before Super Bowl 13. I was with the Steelers. We had won 2 Super Bowls. We're playing the Cowboys. They'd won 2. And whoever wins this game is going to be the first team to ever win 3 Super Bowls, and it's the game of the century. And the chaplain said, you know what, this is a big game, and 150 million people are going to see it. But 10 years from now, nobody's even going to remember who won this game. And he was so right. I'll never forget coming in the locker room. We won, and I'm there, and I'm one of the kind of bit part players, and I'm in the locker. Franco Harris is here, Rocky Blyer is here, Bradshaw's here, and they're all asking these questions. But we hadn't been in the locker room 5 minutes. Do you think you can repeat? Can you do it again next year? And I said, man, the chaplain was right. Yeah, we won it. We won our 3rd one, and we're great. But it's already on to next year.
So as people were watching this today, and they can relate to that, how do you put that in faith perspective? Because you mentioned earlier when you're talking about your son, there's more to this life than just what's here on earth. But what advice do you give people?
I think God wants us to achieve. He put that inside us. He wants us to be driven. But I always go back to Matthew chapter 6, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and then all those other things. Yes, it's okay to go after him, and God will give you a lot of those things. But put him first, because if it doesn't, like Coach Knoll said, if you put everything into your profession, into your goal, you're gonna walk away disappointed.
the NFL statistics for NFL players is saddening on a lot of levels, in the sense of once they're out of the game and the challenges they face with just finding purpose and finding the next thing, whether it's the statistics of divorces or drug use or bankruptcy,
unemployment, bankruptcy,
all that stuff. And what if you could, you have been in NFL locker rooms for 25 plus years of coaching and playing. Why? I mean, how do we turn that tide with them?
I think we see men to get to that level put so much into it, and when they come to us, they are confident, they're driven, they believe they can do anything, and they've done it their whole life. Now, say you have an 8-year career and you're 31 years old, and okay, now my career's over, now I've got to go out into the workforce and I've got to compete with these people who already had a head start, and this is all I've done. So what can I do? And you see guys that now don't have that confidence, and they feel like I can't do what everybody else can do, and what skill do I have, and how do I develop this? And I've seen guys who were captains of our team, best leaders we've had, and now they're out in the workforce and they're unsure of what they can do. And so I think it comes back to what Coach Knoll said: you can't make football your whole life. You have to be getting ready for life after football. And I think the NFL is doing a better job of that. But I would say that is everybody.
Yeah.
Football careers just end earlier than most other careers do, but all of us get to that point. Hey, I'm 66 years old now. I'm broadcasting. Now I stop broadcasting and I retire. What do I do? What can I do?
Yeah.
You've got to have that in mind, that hey, with the Lord, I don't know where He's going to take me, but I can do something.
Yeah, and that was I faced that.
Sure.
I faced some of the, hey, I don't know if I can do anything else, and you don't realize all the skills that you're building, on a team, and work in conflict and leadership and pressure and all the things that you just put in the football category, and you don't put in like real life.
And that's the amazing thing. So many employers, that's what they're looking for. They hire ex-athletes because of the teamwork and the moldability. And I know I'm getting somebody who's used to working hard. I know I've got somebody who knows what a schedule is like. I know I'm going to get somebody who knows what it means to be a good teammate. So I can take Travis Brown and I can mold him into what I want. But then you're looking at it, what do I have that anybody's going to want? What skill do I have? I've never worked in this industry. I've never done that. And it's all perception. And it's like that employer looks at you differently than you look at yourself.
That's right.
And it's kind of a microcosm. God looks at us a lot differently than we look at ourselves sometimes.
Coach, I spent a little bit of time in Indianapolis with you. It was a little bit of time that impacted me for the rest of my life. Just being with you, being with amazing teammates, amazing other coaches, from Jim Caldwell to just so many people, Mr. Irsay and Polian, that it's life-changing impact that you guys continue to make. But you personally, I want to thank you for taking some time, not just then, but now, and pouring into our church. I know our church is going to be more blessed because they get to hear from you and encouraged by you.
Well, thank you, Travis. That's gratifying. It's important. When I speak at coaches' clinics, I tell the men all the time, if you're just coaching those players and making them better players, you've missed a large chance to have an impact. We've got to make them better people. And to hear you say that, it just makes me feel like I was doing my job.
You were. Thank you.